So the first topic for today is so I don't know how many of you know this, but I work at Minayo, and last week we so so Minayo has been an Apache V2 project for the last 5 years or so. But one of the things that's been happening is, as you know, Apache V2 is a license where anyone can make derivatives of your work and then make that proprietary, make their derivative proprietary. Um, One of the problems with such a license is, one of the good things about such a license actually is that it drives adoption up. It's easy for people to get started with, but the flip side to it is this license almost goes against the true philosophy of free software, where whatever software is built or derivatives that are built from this remain free, are supposed to remain free. Um, so so we've been contemplating this for a long time, and slowly we've been transitioning over our projects from Apache V2 to AGPL, which is a form of a GPL license where you cannot, in GPL you cannot create derivatives of a software even by linking it, like code level linking. But in AGPL, it's you can't even use it over the network and have it become a commercial product or proprietary product without getting the author's license first. So anyway, so we've started transitioning to AGPL, the Minayo project. So given that, and given that we have been thinking of using Minayo as our default driver, I think we need to have a discussion about how to move forward with that. Either so I'm coming forward with this because um, one is we together, all of us, decided that it would be an easy driver to get started with. One of the main reasons being it was Apache V2. Back then, even I didn't know that we would go this route. Um, but to preserve the freedom of true free software, and to ensure that like any work that we do is not basically made proprietary and then taken away from the entire world. um, we've we've had to go this way. So if we were to continue using Minayo, the client library and the driver itself, the driver links to the Minayo client library. That is still Apache V2. However, if we were thinking about using Minayo inside our CI, inside the CNCF or Kubernetes end-to-end testing CI, that is probably not something that CNCF might allow or maybe they might. We have to figure it out. Um, from what I checked, it seemed like CNCF only wants to work with other, like if it were to integrate or run some other software in its systems, it only wants to do that with other Apache V2 projects. Um, so this is something. Um,
Y-
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
but this is just going to be an AGPL component that's being used behind the tests, right?
right. It's behind the test. Yes.
I mean, Linux is GPL, and they're not staying away from Linux. Like
Fair
the
enough.
yeah,
There
there's all kinds.
it's usually the licensing things are more of more strict than you. The license really, you know, really
Yeah,
makes you go. Yeah.
yeah, I would say the AGPL stuff is probably more free than Apache, and so from the CNCF perspective, they want Apache or more free. They just don't want proprietary stuff or stuff
Right.
that's.
No. From what I read, there's even projects which, and this is not related to Mineo, but to Grafana, which also became an AGPL project last week. There may be issues with including Grafana as part of CNCF projects now.
Yeah, that's a
Okay, so
CNCL project, but Minio is not really a CNCL project. Different. It's a
the
little
difference
different.
is-
So I think we definitely should still talk about this. Are there alternative though? If we don't use Minio, do we have another better open
So-
source alternative?
Yeah, that's one thing to discuss about. The other is I've spoken to the Minio CEO, and like he's happy to extend a free use license for CNCF purposes. But again, we need to figure out if there's a simpler method, or if this is the right way. But this is something, yeah, we need to discuss. So,
Well,
let's.
I think that the important thing is that if the Csi is going to remain Apache license, and as long as the Minio driver, Csi driver is also Apache licensed, the fact that it talks to an AGPL thing probably shouldn't bother anyone any more than like the fact that Linux is involved should bother anyone.
True.
As long as the Csi proper stuff remains Apache. The only other thing I'll mention is if for whatever reason this turns into a real problem, OpenStack Swift is Apache licensed as far as I know, and it's an object store. Shouldn't be that hard to whip up a Swift.
Yeah.
If we start listing alternatives, then well, us at Scality, we also have an Apache licensed full S3 implementation.
But does it need your hardware?
No, we don't even do hardware. We're software defined. It's you can run it as, I mean, from a simple Docker container, or you can run it on Kubernetes, or you can run it anywhere you want.
Good to know.
Now, Ben, what you said, first of all, I'm not a lawyer, but AGPL kind of extends over the network. So if you have a piece of software which talks to Minio APIs, where using a Minio AGPL licensed instance, then it kind of transfers to whatever is talking to those APIs as well, in caso being the Minio Csi provisioner.
Well, hold on. So the client library, the driver itself doesn't run Minio. The driver is just the driver. So,
Are
okay,
you saying that
you
you think that you can't write a Minio driver that's Apache because of AGPL on Minio? Like that seems a little bit too viral.
That's kind of what AGPL is all about.
That kind of sounds right, to be honest. So I need to verify that. Let me talk to the legal team. I do know what Nicholas is saying. That is, you cannot create proprietary derivatives where it depends on Minio. Well, so it depends on Minio even over the network. Like it can depend on Minio as a library or over the network, and both are not allowed. But in this case, we're not depending on Minio.
Is it that you literally can't do it, or that you just have to open source the resulting thing?
And I think you cannot. Let's open it up. Let's just open it up quick. Yeah.
I'm pretty. I have spent a lot of time dealing with these kinds of legal issues over the decades, and I'm pretty sure that the AGPL would protect Minio. And so what it would do is it would say, if you modified Minio for the purpose of running it in this CI, even if you never distributed those modifications, the fact that you're running it connected to something would mean that you would have to distribute your modifications for Minio. But it wouldn't affect the license of any of the things that were talking to it. It would just say that you have to continue to open source the
It depends whether that other thing is deemed a derivative work or not.
Okay. Well, so then you need a lawyer to go tell you whether that's the case. It doesn't seem like a driver that layers on top is a derivative work. Right. It seems like it's on the other side of an API boundary. The API is part of the published spec of the product. People are allowed to talk to your APIs without becoming a derivative work.
Okay, so what it says is, if you modify the program, your modified version must prominently offer all users interacting with it remotely through a computer network an opportunity to receive the corresponding source of your version by providing access to corresponding source from a network at no charge through some standard or customary means of facilitating copying of software. This corresponding source shall include the corresponding source for any work covered by version 3 of JNAPL. So does that mean it has to be AGPL?
It means that Minio and its derivatives have to be AGPL, but you can still write things that talk to it with whatever license you want.
Yeah, and it's not a derivative really. It's more of a, you know, it doesn't. It's more of a extension, I would say. We're not doing any.
It's on the other side of an API. So like from where I sit, the driver can continue to be Apache.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And,
I think it's sorry.
Go ahead.
So from what I know about this, and I posted this TLDR legal one, if you want to take a look, it's it just mainly says what you have to do if you use this license. So the license just have terms of what you have to do, and as soon as you meet these terms, it's not that you have to implement AGPL in every dependent work and adopt it. It's just that if you make changes to the software specifically, to its code, and it doesn't extend over the network so that you become AGPL just by consuming it over the network. But it does mean that if you are providing a network service of that sort, you have to distribute your source. That's what it
I
does.
see.
If you provide it and you modified it, right? If you're using an unmodified version, you just say, hey, it's
you can
unmodified.
just use unmodified version as well. It's not as restrictive. It's mainly just saying that you have to use an open source, so that the source and any kind of small modifications you make to make it better still becomes open source. That's the main thing. But other than this, it's pretty permissive, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
there are companies that even have taken like the SSPL things to even extend it further to any provider that just runs it as is, right?
Okay, so that's the
with
difference
MongoDB.
between yeah, MongoDB. Yeah. Anyway, so that's good to hear. So is there anyone we should follow up with? Maybe talk to legal somewhere. I mean, I can do this one thing. I can talk to the legal at Minayo. Is there someone at CNCF or someone we should talk to? Shing, would you know, or anyone else?
So I can find some contact person. Maybe this person can get you connected with the legal. I think. Let me actually. Yeah, let me send an email. Just introduce you to someone, and maybe she can connect with some legal people.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. All right, let's do that. Just to make sure, I think overall it looks fine based on what we just discussed, but it would be good to just get the official okay on this. All right, so this is let's move on to the next thing. Let's see. So did we reach a conclusion on credential rotation? Oh yeah, we said we'll deal with it after alpha. Right.
Yeah, we said we're going to go to alpha with no explicit support for credential rotation.
Right.
That seems fine.
Right. No, that's good. All right. So I want to focus a little bit on coding today, in the sense, in a little bit on development. Just get the plan out there in terms of where we are and what we've got. I believe we have.
Can I ask a quick question on the previous topic, just to raise a point, but we don't have to spend time on it. Do you think that this drivers repository, do you think it will want to accept more drivers so that the CI covers more? Is that kind of something that
this was
makes
more
sense?
of a,
I think it's named. I think it has Minio in the name, right?
Right.
Yeah, so normally the driver will be in different repos. So if we have another sample driver, we can have created another repo.
Okay.
Because if you look at the CSI driver, there's a like NFS driver, there's a repo, there's iSCSI. So there are different repos. So that should
and
be
are these? I mean, does the project allow it to
yeah, those are
to enter the CI for that?
Yeah, if it's a repo under then we have that. Yeah, so like this other repos under Kubernetes CSI, we set up CIs for those as well.
Yeah, so this was meant to be like a host path driver because it's easy to set up and run. Um, the idea being you can use it in the end-to-end testing. However, yeah. However, so the other drivers, are they also part of end-to-end testing, Xing?
Yeah, each repo has its own. It's just
Okay,
I think
perfect.
other drivers are not as actively. Some of those are actually, I don't know if we have maintainers of some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we do. But for every repo, then we do need to set up end-to-end test.
I see. Okay, makes sense.
For
Mm-hmm.
for
And you also
vendors,
see that some repos that the testing framework is a little different. Like I think the SMB,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing something completely different.
I see. They do their own. They
But
figure out
it's
their
I
own
think
testing.
it's I was actually, I don't know what was the reason. Maybe some of the general testing framework does not fit or something. They're actually
Mm-hmm.
doing something like they use GitHub Actions. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Isn't that a paid service?
No,
you have some
no, this is
vendors.
all open source. This is not paid service.
Okay. Yeah, they're using GitHub Actions.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, very nice. So is that how we are planning on expanding? Are we thinking of having a driver per vendor or having a driver
Well, it's
per?
not, I don't think we are going to open up for all the vendors, because if you look at it, if you look at the CSI driver repo, you know how many vendors have CSI
Right.
drivers. We're not going to have them all hosted here.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all for the sample or certain criteria that we can host them here. Normally we don't
Okay.
host the driver under
Okay,
here.
makes sense.
So we can
Makes
discuss
sense.
if we think some other driver should be hosted here, we should discuss.
Mm-hmm. Makes
One thing
sense.
CSI has, which is I think useful, is the CSI Test Harness, where if you're as a vendor implement a driver, there's still a bunch of standardized tests you can run against your driver in your CI.
So yeah, so that's actually one thing that we don't really have like a requirement for like certification type of thing, right? We don't really have that because we don't really have bandwidth to really do that. But we do have tests available, so drivers can run those tests. And CSI tests, those are for CSI conformance, CS spec conformance, and then there are also E2E tests. Driver can actually download those E2E tests and run their own, test their own driver.
So from experience in OpenStack back in the day, having
yeah, well, I think that's
having
just
drivers
too much
for
maintenance from the. I actually Ben, you also know that I actually I think it's it's a very high maintenance if you look at the like OpenStack, the Cinder test.
yes.
And then it's just it's kind of a I think it's too difficult to maintain that.
Exactly. So I
Yeah.
think last thing we want is to have vendor specific drivers in Cozy source trees and Cozy CI. Because
No, yeah. So actually, that's why if you look at why we
CSI was started in the first place, it was to take out the storage drivers out of core Kubernetes because they're
Yeah.
super hard to test, etc., as part of the Kubernetes test harness. So a
Yeah.
Cozy provisioner is the responsibility likely of the vendor of the backing object storage system. One could say there's a couple of open source storage systems for which a driver could be developed as part of Kubernetes SIGs, but in general, it's not. Now having a test harness or a test suite you can use as a vendor to validate your driver is likely doing the right, your provisioner is likely doing the right thing, is super valuable, even if it's the
Oh,
vendor's
agreed. Completely
responsibility to
agreed.
run
There's
that
no
test
doubt
harness.
there. No, I don't think anyone's arguing against that. I think what Shing is saying is very valid. What she's saying is, while we completely agree on that, it's about what it takes to keep that up to date, and also what it takes to, work with everyone on this. So the amount of effort it takes to do this is very large, very high. Um, and I think we should do it, but it's just we should look at when is the right time to do it, maybe, because again we're not so complicated that we need a automated test suite to understand if you're doing the right things. I think to begin with we can have uh, we can just do manual testing at this point. We're a very small project at this point, and things like this will come up as we get bigger and bigger, and at that point we can actually iteratively, step by step, add it, and it'll be much more manageable if we did it that way than to start it as a large project and then try to drive it like at one point in the future.
I also agree. I mean, I just wanted to ask, like, if you think this goes to this direction or not, but I mean, I think it's too early to know. So that's my understanding of what. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder maybe like if we have some tests and have driver test that and just submit some results, maybe better. I do not think if we have like continuous like CSE pipeline, like constantly testing all the vendor drivers, I don't think that is manageable at all. It's just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we'll lose the. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was actually going to talk about something else. Continue, please.
Oh, I was saying if we were to go that route of doing it for every driver like that, we'll lose the whole benefits of microservices that we all are going towards, because everyone will have to converge on one instance of the API, and we can't move the API forward if all the vendors don't conform, because all of the tests will fail.
You know what? But something that could be valuable in that scope could be if we can all collaborate on creating the test software, like a test repo for a driver. That would be like something that all vendors would be able to update, I guess.
Can you elaborate on that? Like what kind of tests?
Right. So if the entire test that runs in the CI for validating Csi, right, with MinIO and the CI, if that can be reused for testing any driver, that will be a valuable upstream, repo to contribute and have.
Yeah, I think we should have that, right? So it's same. This is the same
Absolutely.
thing for the E2E test, right? If you look at the upstream E2E test, any CSI driver can just download that. They just change the storage class, then they should be able to run those.
Is that what you meant, Nicholas? Is that what you were talking about too?
No, well, there's two angles to it. CSI test is really tests for the gRPC API, so the internal low-level driver API. The E2E tests include the whole cycle and the bucket objects and the bucket access. I mean, in Csi speak, would be the bucket object, the bucket access object, and whatnot, and really test the whole chain. And I think there's value in both of them. The whole chain, you need a Kubernetes setup, etc. But having something like CSI test, which you can simply run against a CSI driver instance, you don't need to have Kubernetes running, etc. for it, really speeds up development and CI as well.
I see. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Guy, what you said, I think even the tests we write for MinIO, only the provisioning steps would be different. I think in terms of the actual testing itself, it would only talk the S3 API in terms of the bucket consumption side, and in terms of provisioning side, I mean, again, it's S3 API for bucket creation and just bucket specific calls are S3 APIs. Only difference between MinIO and S3 would be in provisioning access credentials, because in S3 you'd be calling IAM service in S3, in MinIO you'd be calling MinIO admin service. So that's one point of difference. But yes, I completely agree that any test we write should be for should be as generic as possible, and if possible we should reuse the generic thing and just modify it a tiny bit to run the CI for MinIO itself, using MinIO itself. Like you said, if everyone contributes to it, we would definitely have a good base to work off of. And also, if MinIO used the generic portions of this test harness, then it would show other vendors, new vendors, how to take the generic portion and then modify it to work with their system.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, we should talk about that actually. Now that we have, so first of all, even before we go there, Krish, do you have a demo to show us? If you're there.
Hey. Yeah, I could go over the demo. Give me. Can I have a minute to set up?
Sure, yeah, take your time.
Okay.
So Chris is so Chris has done the work on. He's written a tiny application, just like a demo application, that relies on a bucket being provisioned via Cozy. So it's a working demo, which goes over, in the demo he shows the bucket lifecycle operations like creation of bucket access and all that, and he shows I believe some object being uploaded to a bucket, and just the whole life cycle. The whole idea behind this demo was, when we originally started, one of our main goals was to show a demo. The idea behind it was, by putting that as the goal, we would be forced to build the entire end-to-end architecture rather than just focus on one at a time, and it is definitely paid off, in the sense that we have the different components working to the extent where we can rely on it to provision buckets, revoke access, create access, and delete buckets. Again with Minayo for now. So yeah, Krish will show it to us in a little bit. Right after, if we have time, we should talk about this testing harness. Now that you brought it up, not really a testing harness, but kind of a something generic. As a starting point, I think it'll address what Nicholas asked for as well, and also what Guy was saying, because by doing this, we'll end up in a position where anyone who writes a driver can kind of get started with and see if their driver is doing well, if it satisfies the API or not. So Shing, you said the Cinder tests were very complicated to maintain. Was that because of like in OpenStack Cinder, there's a lot of wiring involved in how like a volume is like wired into an operating system or into a host or VM?
Oh. The main issue with Cinder was, from my perspective at least, that the vendor specific drivers were part of Cinder and shipped with Cinder. And as a vendor, you had to, when you wanted to make a code change, it had to be integrated in Cinder. And the Cinder CI was set up such that every vendor who wanted to have a driver part of Cinder had to have its own CI system in place, which we then report for every single code change, not only to your own driver, but to any driver or any of the common code. We need to, your CI would be triggered, and we need to report back success or failure. And given that there were, I don't know, 50 to 100 drivers in Cinder, that caused a lot of flakiness, with third-party CI being unavailable, third-party CIs being unreliable themselves, and always impacting any code change throughout the Cinder source code.
Yeah, the principle in Cinder was that because the drivers themselves were part of the project, in principle, anyone should be able to modify them, not just the vendor that owned them. But if some third party wanted to go fix a bug in, say, the NetApp driver, like they might not have NetApp hardware to go test their fix on, and so NetApp was required to run CI so that we could tell them if their change broke us or not. And then in principle, that would be all that would be necessary for the Cinder team to merge a fix to the NetApp driver.
It was actually worse than that.
They went the Linux route where sorry, go
ahead. Yeah, it's like the Linux model where the drivers are part of the tree.
Right.
But the main issue was that if someone made a change to the NetApp driver, then the EMC tests or CI had to run and succeed as well.
Yeah, but then sometimes it failed just for some other reasons. So
No, I mean that was a whole nightmare. But I mean the principle of it kind of made sense if you bought that it was a good idea to have the drivers be in the tree. In the CSI world and in the Cozy world, every driver is its own project that's separate. So there's all of these requirements don't make any sense.
Well, also, doing it that way goes against the whole philosophy of microservices. Um, the microservice is not just about breaking, software into smaller chunks. It's about breaking it along boundaries of, operations like people, and like teams that are developing it. You basically make them independent to one another, and the only point of integration is the API, whatever that API is. So, yeah,
Right, but
we
the
won't.
problem with Cinder is there was no driver API. It was all a mess of Python code, and there was no clean like.
Well, but those are driver APIs. What do you mean? There's a
I mean, it
those are
wasn't
driver interfaces. I mean, yeah, it's
right,
Python.
but
Not just
there was no interface along which you could provide backwards compatibility so that you could rev the API and old drivers could still work. Like if you
But
if you
I
wanted to
but I
if
don't
you wanted
think
to
those are
change
the
anything, you had to change all the drivers at the same time. So the only way to do that is when it's all in the same tree.
yeah. I mean, I don't think those are the reason why the tests. I mean, the
I
CIs
really,
are so flaky. I mean, that's something else.
no, the CI flakiness is a separate issue, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
it made sense to have the drivers in the tree because there was no driver API. And as long as the drivers were in the tree, it made sense to
Well,
have
no,
vendor
that
CI.
discussed about moving them out. I think at that time, it's just most people still prefer them to be in. Now I think it's actually better to move them out. But anyway, we are really off the topic. Let's not talk about Cinder that
but I
much.
mean, we're not talking about doing any of this for Csi, right? Csi is going to
No.
be like CSI. The drivers are going to be out of the tree. So
Yeah.
to take us back to the top, what kind of testing are we talking about?
Oh, so one is, I think there should be some mechanism to make sure. Let's say we make a change in Cozy API. Let's say we add a new, or we go and remove a field, or we change how a bucket is provisioned. Like we stop looking for bucket name is empty or not, and so any driver that's importing this code, any driver that's based on this library should know that they can't send in empty bucket names anymore. So they should fail.
But it's a sidecar. I mean, it's just we're doing the sidecar model, right?
Yeah, the sidecar which imports this library.
Yeah. So, but I mean, this is so the spec makes certain guarantees. There's a contract between the sidecar and the driver, and as long as you don't violate that contract, you should stay out of trouble. And then periodically, periodically you update the spec itself to say, now we're going to add this new optional parameter or whatever, and then you change the contract by changing the spec. But anyone who compiles with the older version of the spec will get the older behavior, and as long as every change is backwards compatible, you never ever have a problem. And this is how CSI works, right? CSI is now on 1.3. We'll probably be going to 1.4 soon, and every change we've made has been backwards compatible, so that if someone is still compiling with CSI 1.1, even if you're using CSI 1.3, it works fine because 1.3 is backwards compatible to 1.1, and you can detect that they don't have any of the 1.3 features, and so you just use what they have available, and you stay out of trouble.
Not only compilation, there's a bunch of things in the CSI spec related to which error you have to report as a driver in this particular scenario. This particular RPC call must be idempotent, etc., which are part of the spec text, but not part of the CSI bindings. The compiled proto file into some Go code or whatever. So this is where CSI test comes in to actually validate that the driver behaves according to the specification, not only in which RPC calls it.
Right. But that's for the convenience of the driver authors to basically sanity check their driver.
Yes.
And having worked with the CSI sanity tests, they leave something to be desired. They're too loose in some places and too strict in other places. I mean, they're better than nothing by a long shot, but they could be way better. I wouldn't recommend someone writing a CSI driver use those religiously. I might run it once and look for any problems and say, okay.
You're saying if it found something, it could be useful, but if it didn't find anything, it doesn't mean that you're okay.
Right, and sometimes it finds stuff that's bogus, just because of the way it's written. And those are test bugs that should be fixed, but no one's investing in it, so they don't get fixed.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to support what Shing was saying. I think this is kind of convenience for sanity testing kind of thing. If it's in the spec, I think it's reasonable to expect that they should follow the spec.
At
Anyways,
least when something goes wrong, you know who to point the finger at. If you go read the spec and say, okay, was it the sidecar that screwed up, or was it the driver that screwed up? And then you know where to fix the bug.
Right.
I think it's worth. Sorry for jumping, but I think it's worth investigating for Cozy to be successful. I think, right?
Yeah,
Because
I think we should do. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's mainly my point. I mean, I think if we invest in it, I think Cozy will be more successful. But if we kind of end up doing each own CI for the driver, we'll get something more variant across the certification that Cozy provides. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good motivation just to run it and just to host it somehow and collaborate
What do you
there.
mean by certification? Just
well, I think
we never went that
there's an
far
API,
with
right?
Csi.
There's an
we're not
API,
V1 yet.
right, for the driver. If you are trying to communicate to the driver and you want to test both Cozy and the driver, the specific driver, through that, and in an end-to-end test, you would impersonate an administrator kind of operations and user operations, right? And like check it from both views of what Cozy provides, because we do specify something of the behavior in the documentation, but
yeah, I mean, I get that you want to be able to test it from an end-to-end perspective, and absolutely we need end-to-end tests. I'm just saying, like, I don't think we would want to call that a certification, because we're not going to do any kind of formal "you are Cozy certified." That requires a whole bunch of people, and there's a whole bunch of work associated with that.
I wouldn't look for that. I would just say that it makes it, well, when you get less variance about how this behaves, and this becomes more of a good routing layer for vendors to use, then I think the vendors can actually get to the
it
point
improves
faster.
confidence, for sure. Yeah, it improves confidence that they've written it right, and they'll also know that whatever they're shipping is in line with what others are also doing. So I agree, but guys, this is something we should look at when we are V1, right? That's how you're thinking about it, right?
I think I didn't mean it to be something that's so super important at this point, right? But
right. Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. Okay. So, Krish, are you ready, or do you need some more time?
Having some Docker trouble locally. Think it's possible to show the recording, Sid?
Yeah, let's do it.
That we have?
Do you want to show it?
Sure. Or do you have like the Creative Cloud folder? You could just go to that point in the recording.
Okay, so
You know
let me do that. Okay, give me a second. So we're doing a talk. Okay, let me first ask for permission. So Sheng, this is for the talk we are submitting to CNDM days.
Oh, okay.
Is it okay to show a
Oh
part
yeah,
of
of
that
course.
talk?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No problem.
Okay.
Sneak preview.
All right, so I need to figure out. Open. Just the demo, just the demo sequence.
Yeah.
Just the last part. Oh, does this show in full screen?
I think you should be able to get it to go into full screen.
Okay.
You can just take like the output MP4 and open that up as well.
Oh, like that? Okay. Reveal and find it, I think.
I mean, in like
Maybe.
the, you know, when you like render it and stuff, you have the MP4.
Got it. Okay, so there. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, so it's here. Yeah, there it is. Oh, you mean where it is saved? Is that what you mean?
I mean, like you know, the recording that we sent,
Yeah,
like
I think I know
that
what you mean.
yeah. I
Um,
think it should be in your folder, your Creative Cloud or whatever.
yeah. It should be named demo sequence. So we tried sharing. So we both created accounts on Creative Cloud, and okay, Christian True. So it has a Git like interface for. I don't see it.
I mean, like the file that we sent to Nikki, like that
Oh, the
file.
final file. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. If you just go to that point in the video, that's what I meant. I think that would be
Okay.
easier.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. All right. Somewhere there. I'm gonna take my earphones off. Okay.
Started. But first things first, let's validate that all of our Cozy components are up and running with no issues. And we can also validate that MinIO as well as the MinIO provisioner and driver are both also running with no issues. So with that, let's proceed to validating our manifests. And as we can see here, we've defined our bucket access class and bucket class for the minio.objectstorage.kate.io provisioner. If we recall, the bucket class and bucket
My audio is going super weird. I can't hear anything.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, you can't hear?
No,
Oh
we
man.
lost audio at the middle somewhere.
It was working until 10 seconds ago.
Oh, okay. Let me go back 10 seconds and try it again.
You do some like post editing. It's not. You didn't record this through the Zoom? How did you make this video?
No, we used Adobe Premiere Pro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it should be. It should. Maybe it was the internet connection. I don't know because on
Or
my
are you
want to
sharing
check
your
the
screen?
whatever video you send out. You probably want to make sure that it has everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
if I
I
mean
think
like
it might be the. Are you
Zoom.
sharing your screen? If you share
I
the
am.
application, I think you can share the audio in the application, right? Like whatever.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Like in Zoom, when you share your screen, you can select to share
Oh,
an application. I think
I
when you
didn't know
share an
that.
application, it does the audio.
I don't see it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so Shing and Ben, yeah, the audio sounded fine on my side, so it's probably
Hmm.
Zoom that's having the issue.
Well, you can just mute the video and I can just talk through it. That would work as well.
Perfect. Let's do that. Let's do that.
But yeah,
I'll just yeah. Give me a second.
But I'm saying
sure.
like the video that you sent out that has everything, right?
Yeah, it has
Yeah,
everything.
Oh, okay.
We've gone through it many times. Yeah, yeah. All right, Krish, go ahead.
sure.
Let me just make sure. Okay.
Okay, so at this point, we're just going through the manifests. So this is the bucket request and bucket access request. Nothing like we're not doing any like fancy configuration here, just to keep things simple. And then within the actual like workload pod, we define our volume for our secret. So this will be where the actual credentials are mounted. And so once we create our classes, I think, yeah, then we're going to create our bucket access request and bucket request. And pretty quickly, both like the corresponding bucket and bucket access are created. And so we can check the status of the bucket, and we can see here that the bucket's available, and the bucket's been provisioned in the backing provider. So in this case, MinIO, right? And we can do the same thing for the bucket access. So we can see here access has been granted, and there's a minted secret that's been created, and there's like a secret reference there for the node adapter. Yeah, and so now we create our actual like workload pod. And so we can check MinIO locally. I just forwarded the port, and so we can see that our sample bucket has been created. That was the ID we chose. And so now this is the actual web application that's connected to MinIO through a backend running in the cluster. So you can just select images to upload here. It's like an Instagram clone, basically, right? So just select the image, crop it into a square and upload it. And so we can set our name for the picture as well. So in this case, I just do it Gophers or something. Gophers plus Kubernetes, my bad. And so if we go back to the homepage, you can see that we just can see all the pictures here. And so I think the rest of the demo is just me, adding some more fun pictures. Like everything's handled with just MinIO and the bucket access that we provisioned with Csi.
Yeah, yeah, it just shows that the whole end-to-end thing is functional. Any thoughts on this? So if anyone wants to set up the whole system, or if anyone wants to do the same steps as this demo, you can obviously reach out to us. But at this point, I think more or less people should be able to do it already, right?
Yeah, should be able to, I think, with the version of the CSI adapter that's on master. I believe that should work.
Yeah, that's good. But there's one change that was missing, right? The revoking access, or?
Yeah, so the version of grant access that we used here is kind of like naive implementation. So I think Yanis is still working on the actual version of grant access, which will like create a new account and stuff. And so that should be good in a few days, I think, whenever that's merged in.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we are. We just have to merge. There's already a PR. We just have to go through the review cycle and merge it for the entire end-to-end. First implementation of the entire end-to-end to work. It's definitely demo ready. I wouldn't yet call it production ready or anything, but it's getting there. I would encourage everyone to try it out. Try it either with whatever driver you're writing, or try it with MinIO. See how it goes, and report back any errors that you see. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask right now, or later is fine too.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, that's it for today. On Thursday, again, I just want to go over some of the development tasks that are remaining. Again, would appreciate any help from anyone who has some cycles to contribute.
Hey Sid, do you know the 1.22 schedule is out?
Is it out?
Yeah, enhancement freeze is actually. Let me check. What was the time? It's May 13th. So it's week.
Coming up.
So it's 1 week after KubeCon.
Got it. Okay, so Shing, so I've reached out to Tim. So last week he hasn't responded yet, so I'll reach out to him again today. Is there anything else we can do
Okay.
to speed it up?
I think it's just reaching out to him, I guess. I mean, I don't have any better way. You can pin Sad. He can also help.
Okay, and so I think last time someone mentioned there's a CAP reviewer other than the API reviewer. Is that right?
The
Right. So,
PRR
but I think the
reviewer?
API reviewer is like CAP reviewer. Like, I think Sad has already reviewed. I mean, at least the old one, right? So I think that part just is like someone from SIG storage can handle. I think it's mainly going through the API reviewer. That's the main
Understood.
challenge,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out to Tim again. We'll see what he says.
Okay.
All right. Okay. That's it from me. Is there anything else anyone want to talk about?
I just wanted to mention that my group at NetApp is having a so-called hackathon next week, and I got some people to sign up to write a cozy driver in our hackathon.
Wow.
So next week we'll be doing that.
Great, that's great. Let us know how it goes. I mean, let us know if there's anything we need to do. Say, for instance, anything in the library that's missing that might prevent you from, finishing it. You can let me know. But I think right now we're in a good shape. We have enough that you can show a full demo.
It'll be
you have your own like on-prem object storage?
NetApp has two products that are object stores. At least two. Like there could be more I don't know about, but we plan on supporting two of them eventually in Trident, and so we're going to prototype it. It's going to be next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll be working on this stuff. So I might miss the next Monday meeting as a result of that, but maybe they'll have some questions and I'll show up and ask my questions in the next Monday meeting. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Good luck with that. If we don't see you, we'll see you on Thursday anyways.
Yeah. I'll be around.
All right. So, all right. Good meeting. Let's meet again on Thursday. I want to do a little bit of development planning on Thursday, and then we'll get into the remaining things that we have. We have it written down in the project, but I couldn't quite tell you off the top of my head. The things that we need to focus on. There's a lot remaining, so yeah. All right. Talk to you all on Thursday. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right.